So we're going to create now the assembly which puts together our wheel, our body, and our dumper sort of bucket at the back to finish our dumper truck. All right, so let's get started. File, new, metric, and then we're looking for a standard millimeter assembly. All right, standard millimeter assembly, and create. All right, doesn't look any different to creating a part, but it works very differently. Okay, this is where we put the things together that we've made. So that's why it's called an assembly. We're assembling our product. All right. Now, when you're in assembly mode, you have to constrain your objects based on your first part. All right. So you bring a part in, you lock that into position, and then you arrange all of your other parts around it. So we would call that placing a component, and we would make it grounded at origin. It's a bit like gluing it into position. So watch this process. I'm going to right click. I'm going to place the component. Okay. Make sure that I'm bringing it out from the right place. So you navigate to the file where your information, your product is. Okay. So for me, that's quite a way down the road. All right. So I've created for these tutorials body 2, wheel 2, etc. So there's body version 2. I'm going to open that. Just say yes to all of these things. So I'm looking front on, and it's grounded at origin. All right, that means that that part is now locked into position. I'm going to right click and cancel now that it's got 1 in, otherwise it will try and bring more in. Okay, so if you look on my view cube, if I click on this front icon now, click, that's the front of my truck. If I rotate this around, that's the right hand view. Click, that's the back view, etc. All right. Now to make it a little bit easier, because I've got these colors, I'm going to change my view, which I did during the construction, and I'm going to go view, visual style, and I'm going to go shaded with edges. That means that I can see any edges that are on my object, and it might help me to lock things together. All right. So I'm going to take that part. That's now locked in place. Okay. And I'm going to bring in my next component. So I'm going to right click, place component, and it's going to be the dumper this time. Okay, so I open that, and I'm going to click to put it down, and then I right click and cancel so I don't bring a second one in. Okay, so there's my dumper back. Now what I'm going to do to that, I don't know whether you've spotted, but I've actually put an axis on the back of this. All right, and if you didn't see, well, you wouldn't have seen me do it. I'm going to just put an axis on this part here by going to, I'm going to open that body, okay, and I'm going to put an axis, I hope, in here. So my axis is there. If I hover over, that yellow line previews it. If I now click, that creates an axis. If I go back to my assembly, you'll notice I've now got an axis here and an axis there. So it's updated my drawing. I could add axes here. I don't actually need to. All right. So now I've got this object and I can move it wherever I want. Okay, but that's actually no good to us. So what I need to do is I need to lock it into position. I need to constrain it. All right, so I'm going to right click, I'm going to constrain. Ignore this box for a minute, it'll just do what we need it to do. And if I hover over here, I can pick up that axis. So it's picked up that axis, and then I'm going to come over and I'm going to pick up that axis. And that's now constrained that. So although I can move it that way and that way, I can't move it any other way. I can lift it up and rotate it, but at the moment it can still move left and right. So my next constraint is going to be to take one of these inside faces and constrain it against one of these outside faces. All right, so let's do that now. Right click, constraints. Just cancel that. Sorry, I just thought right click and constraint. I choose that face, click, and then I'm going to choose this face and click. Gives me a nice little popping noise to show that's now, we OK that, that's now locked into position. I'm looking at this, and since I've made a few changes, I think I've made this part a little bit high, which I may go on and edit later on, but for what we're doing, it's absolutely fine. Alright, we'll see what happens if I do that towards the end of the video, but let's leave it like that for now. Okay, now, we obviously need 4 wheels. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do, right click, place components, and I'm going to choose a wheel. I'm going to open that. And looking at that, I want that bit to be on the outside. I'll put 2 of those down. Right click and cancel. So I've got 2 wheels in there. Alright. Now those 2 wheels at the moment could float around anywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, constrain. I'm going to hover over here and see if it will pick me up an axis. Interesting, it doesn't want to. Right, so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to choose a flat face on this object. I'm going to choose a flat face on that object. And I'm going to change it. At the moment, I always think about this. This is what I call, is known as a mate. Okay, it's a bit like they're kissing. The 2 faces that I've just chosen have come together there. But I want to flip that. So I can do that here. So it's a flush constraint. So instead of them being kissing each other, they're now lined up that way. Okay, I can move this one apart. Okay. What I can't do, and I'm going to need to go and add an axis in, is I can't select that axis and connect it to an axis here. It's not letting me. Alright, but we can just do that method we did a second ago. So if I cancel that, I'm going to go back into the body, and I'm going to put an axis through here and through here, I hope. Okay, so if I go dumper, no, body, go to my axes, there we go. Right, so I'm clicking, I'll do that again, axes up at the top, clicking a little dot on the middle, it jumps to the middle, and then on the other side, click, and that puts an axis in there. Alright, it's a little bit tricky that. Axes, a dot on one, rotate it, a dot on the other, that puts a nice line on there. Okay, so if I come back to my assembly, you'll see that's now brought it through. Okay, so if I now go right click constraints and select that one, it's going to pop into position. If I select now, I can apply that. You'll notice I move this around a lot because sometimes it's difficult to see which one you're looking at until you've rotated it to check, get the best view. Click on that, click on that. So those 2, okay, those 2 are now constrained next to each other. So if I move one, the other one moves. They're also constrained so they can only move in line with those wheel arches. That's what that axis was for. There's one more constraint I could. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this object. I'm going to use a slightly different method this time. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to constrain. I'm going to constrain that part to that axis. Okay. I'll place another. No, I'm not. I'll take that object now. So it's in line. The center of that axis was constrained with that axis. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to make that face, that flat bit, kiss, i.e. mate, the inside of that bit. So let's do that. Right click, constraint, zoom in, middle mouse button, click on that, click on that, Okay, and you can see that that's now locked into position there with that face touching that face. And if I click and drag, I can't move that wheel anymore. Right, so I'm going to repeat that process now. Bring in a place component, bring in a wheel, open, click, cancel. There's my wheel. I'm going to right click constrain, choose that axis, choose that axis, then constraint, choose that flat face, and they're now locked together. Okay, so a little bit of fiddling around, a couple of different methods there to lock those into position. I could equally notice that those move. Remember, I constrained that one to be in line with that one. If I now go constraints and choose that one and lock that against that face, it takes the other one with it. So that's now a fully constrained mini dumper truck with the only thing that I can move being that little thing there. If you can get that done, well done. I'll just do a file, save as, dumper together, version 2. Alright, so you'll notice I'm being quite careful with my file names. I'm not overwriting things. I'm making sure I'm saving them in the right place, etc. Okay, save that. Good luck.